So before we wrap this conversation up, I would definitely take this opportunity to ask you about your opinion on contempts of the court and how these recent trends have perhaps given you some sort of an inspiration or idea as to how they're evolving.
Look, what people don't realize these days, or I would say people who are aligning their lives with technology, is that this trend is not recent. Just that information is all over the place, so the access is better.
Right.
Talk about the Contempt of Court Act. It's an old act. It's not a 2020 act. It was not enacted this year. Just that with news and media and with so much of information, or as I say, infodemic. It's an information pandemic, which is all over the place, especially during Corona. People have a very easy access to information because everybody has a smartphone. The moment they swipe, even the basic information which is regarding the court is out there. When I was a law student, we never had all these legal websites to, exclusive legal websites reporting news. Today, you at least have 5 to 10 websites and so many youth organizations involved in this that, information is all over the place. That is one. So people think that when information is commonplace, it is a recent phenomenon. No, it's not a recent phenomenon, because if you look at contempt of court judgments over the number of years since we have gained independence, either of Supreme Court or various high courts, they have been there. So it's not a recent phenomenon. That is one thing we need to realize. And second, you cannot take the court for a ride. You cannot, browbeat the court mercilessly and expect them to forgive you. And fundamental right, every law student knows that it's not absolute. And even if you're sitting in your household, or if you go to, if you're invited at some place, would you go and start rebuking your host or start abusing them? I mean, I'm not taking of culture or Sanskriti or Parampara. I'm talking about basic etiquettes and demeanor. So, when we talk of different people, and I'm not naming names here, but, when you're showing a middle finger, when you're alleging specification against the Chief Justice of India, when you're casting aspersion on an institution, so this is new. Not the Contempt of Court Act, but the way the contempt is happening is new. And this is what we need to understand and differentiate. 50 years ago, I don't think a newspaper would have said कि Supreme Court संघी है या कांग्रेसिया है या एक फलाना पार्टी का है. ये नहीं होता ना. So today, because of technology and easy access to phone, as I said, smartphone, phones are smart and people are becoming dumb and dumber, unfortunately. And then they try to take the courts for a ride. And then when courts say, okay, now I'm issuing you contempt, they're like, how can the court do that? Why can't the court do that? You can rebuke judges. Judges out of custom do not come before the media and rebut your arguments. So वही होता है ना कि भले इंसान को और को सुनाता रहता है. तो अगर आप कोर्ट की भलमानसता को देखते हैं, so this does not give you a fundamental right to rebuke the system which is protecting you, essentially. So this is what people need to understand.
Absolutely. I think I just have one follow-up question on that. There is one running argument from the one side of this debate is that how do we draw a line between criticizing the judgment of a court and perhaps crossing that line to, as you said, rebuking or abusing the court or actually qualifying for the contempt? How does one, especially a law student who understands freedom of speech and understands contempt of court, would perhaps draw that line in your opinion?
See, that's a problem not just with the law student, but with this people who are not lawyers also, because you end up criticizing a judgment without knowing how the judiciary works or how the registry of a court works. So if you know that, then it's fine. For example, let's say the Arnab Goswami matter, because of which Kunal Kamra has invited contempt. He needs to understand how the registry works, or anybody for that matter needs to understand how the registry works. Now you can question if the registry has been unfair in marking a matter out of turn. That is something you can raise before a court and genuinely question that, look, this should not have happened. We need to question that registry is being impartial. If that is something, even Mr. Dushyant Dave, being the president, has written a long article on it. He has raised objection because he's not crossing the line. He knows how the court functions. But to say outright that you cannot give bail to a particular person is wrong, because that is a matter of merit of a particular case. Right. And I'm not, and you compare the number of matters. Arnab Goswami just one highlighted matter because he is in the media, he himself is a media personality. So that gains prominence in the eyes of people. But if you see a weekly list of court cases, let's say I'm only talking Supreme Court, you take out the causes and see how many bail matters were listed and how many were rejected and how many bail applications were granted. Take a data, but nobody is collating that data. Na? People are busy taking on juicy gossip and rebuking our court system. So where is the data in this country? Because people by and large don't believe in taking data. Mirch masala aa raha hai, usme aur namak mirch laga ke chalo pel do. That's the problem. So, all these things don't work. Show me a
Right.
data. Show me one organization which has taken a data which shows कि Supreme Court इतने matter सुनता है. You have a national judicial
Mhm.
data grid, a government run. आप उसको खोलिए, उसमें पूरा data आता है. पर वो तो किसी ने देखना नहीं है, क्योंकि court punching bag है ना हमारा. Court को आप court को मुक्का मत मारिए. And I'm not saying everything is right with the court. There are certain things which I also get personally offended about. But as an institution, I respect our court system. As a first generation practicing lawyer, I
Mhm.
have seen so many number of good judges giving impartial, good judgments and honest, hardworking people in the court. And there are people like me and you, first generation judges, first generation
Mhm.
lawyers. So to my mind, there is absolutely nothing to doubt about, doubting the integrity of the court system. And that is
Right.
what people need to understand.